Engineers from Nepal are working in multinational companies right from there. It is not the size of the check that we do bring to the table. It is our expert LPs, advisors, and our officers. There are so many good things happening in Nepal, but I do not think we are talking about that in an appropriate way.
Hello and namaste. Welcome to season 5 of TGND Beats, our podcast where we share stories of struggle, perseverance, and success of global Nepalis. I am Preeti Adhikary, the founder of the Great Nepali Diaspora, and now the general partner of Momo VC. Today we have a very special guest and a very special topic. Sajan Gautam is my fellow GP, fellow general partner of Momo VC. He's a technology practitioner turned startup investor, advisor. He's actively involved in the network of VCs as well as startups to access market and evaluate investment opportunities. He used to be the CISO of Arvest Bank and is a cybersecurity expert. Welcome, Sajanji.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for having me here. Excited.
Hazur, I know. I'm so glad. We've talked about this. I'm so glad we're working on Momo VC together, and how it connects to everything that we're passionate about. So I definitely want our audience and our community members from the Great Nepali Diaspora, as well as beyond, to learn about, what you do and what you bring to the table. So let's get started. First, I'd say, tell us about your youth in Nepal and how you came to the US.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, absolutely. So I grew up in Nepal in those wonder years, right? Load setting, a Maoist insurgency, and multi-party democracy. So I came here for undergraduate studies and then started working right after undergraduate. So here I am.
Amazing, amazing. And how did that shift into, how did you decide to take cybersecurity as a career? अहिले त, like, when we think about today, it's such a hot topic, right? Everybody's talking about it. We've had, billion-dollar exits and so on. Incredible, activity in that space. So when you started, what made you choose that as a field? And talk about like your journey in that industry.
Yeah, sure, sure, absolutely. That's a great question. It's accidental, by the way, right? Because there were two things that I did not want to do. One was I did not want to talk to people, right? And another is I was very bad in programming, but I still wanted to do IT, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that did not leave me a lot of career choice. So I decided to go into networking, right? Where I did not have to do a whole lot of talking and did not have to do programming. So that's where how it started. And back in the days, cybersecurity used to be part of network security. So whoever was managing the routers, firewalls, they become the cybersecurity guys. So that's how it started.
Amazing. And you've done incredible. I shared a little bit just come in terms of your bio, but tell us more. I think I know you. You're very humble in terms of your introduction and everything, but I do know how incredible you are in that space, how well known you are in that space. So I do want to spend a little bit more time in terms of the roles you've taken so far, and what you've done in those roles.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, absolutely, right. So over the years, I did have opportunity to work with a lot of amazing teams, startups, as well as big corporations. Uh, Around like 10 years or so back, I focused mostly on the startups because the startups were solving the problems not generally solved by the big organizations. So that is how I got gravitated towards startups. So I started advising them a little bit. then started buying products from them, became design partners in their products. So in some of those cases, I was the first customer for some of the well-known startups. We did equity investing. I did my own personal investing, and that's how it started. About 2 to 3 years back, I increased my involvement even further. So I got involved with mentoring some more startups, got involved with accelerators, involved with few VCs. So that's how it started.
Amazing, amazing. And like I said, I'm so glad we're doing this together. Tara, let's talk about Momo VC, right?
Okay.
And disclaimer, it is not about the Momo that we all love. It's
Yeah.
something that's connected, but something different. So let's talk about that. What is Momo VC? And more importantly, what made you want to be a part of it? I know you were already involved in that venture capital space. So why choose Momo VC?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I know we are there together, and uh, because of you, I'm part of the Momo VC, right? So, uh, as both of us have been talking about for quite a bit, there is a need for startups for advice. I mean, need of advice and all for startups, mostly coming from those minorities or underrepresented founders who do not have access to capital, do not have access to expertise. Uh, that was something lacking for a while. So we wanted to change that. Uh,
Exactly.
that is how it started.
Amazing. One thing that I'll quickly add in terms of that origin story and the name is, for all of us, I mean, Nepali haru, we're all obsessed with Momo, right? And it's it's beyond just a food for us. It's that comfort. So anywhere in the world, whether we're in the US or the may parts of Europe or wherever else we are, Momo is, gives us that feeling of home, that comfort. So in terms of how we think of VC, that's exactly what we want to do. How do we provide that support system for founders, and especially global Nepali founders or underrepresented founders in general are they don't have that, right? They don't come with trust fund money, or they don't come with a big friends and family round and things like that. So hamro endma चाहिँ that's what we want to create, right? A source of capital as well as where they can plug in an expertise of mentors and advisors.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to add to that, we do have complementary skill sets, you and I. But beyond that, we do have friends, families, expert network. Those provide expertise at various levels, right? So thinking in terms of, let's say, deal sourcing, finding out where we do need to invest, what type of help we can provide, from deal sourcing to due diligence to post investment support, as well as after, like, how can they find the exit? We can help them through that continuum. So that is very exciting.
Exactly. And one thing that I just realized is,
Yeah,
you use networking in very different ways that I do, right? So,
yeah,
for us, the Great Nepali Diaspora, the foundation is networking, right? That's what we want our community to do, right? Networking is that first step into really building long-term relationships. We want people to invest in long-term professional relationships, not just social, like fun matra haine ki, that it has to be productive. And for us, I think, my personally, I feel like the Momo VC is such a good use case of what the power of our community, of the Great Nepali Diaspora and communities like that, right? Where you can come together, and once you have a collective, you can do amazing things with it. So one thing that I'm super proud of is that we're doing that, right? We're not just talking about, in theory matra, we're actually, showing a use case of it. And our hope, I think the two of us, hamro hope चाहिँ is not just to be investors ourselves, but to, really build that ecosystem of future investors, future entrepreneurs, domain experts, and so on. And I think it's already started, so it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is, right? I mean, as we talked about offline as well earlier, what we want is when we engage or invite some of the experts, limited partners in our network, our hope is in another couple of years, they would start their own fund, they become a GP, and then we invest together, right? Through different funds. Because we do need more VCs, especially catering to underrepresented founders, not less. So we are not competing with other
Exactly.
VCs, we are partnering with them. So maybe this is a good start.
Exactly, exactly. On that, and say, let's, for people that have no idea about investing or startups or venture capital, let's maybe explain a few terms that we use, right? GP, LP, and then just a little bit in terms of how investing sort of works.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's start with the terminology and then we go into the VCs, right? So general partners, they are like you and me who do the day-to-day operations of a fund, right? Limited partners are basically the investors who invest with us. But a little like unique part about our approach is we want to use those limited partners more involved in our processes, right? That way, there are multiple benefits. First is when limited partners get involved with our fund, uh, they also learn or find an opportunity to be like advisor, board of
Right.
advisors, right, board of directors, some business services, some consulting gig, some extra investment, and down the road sometimes it's just like, hey, I'm tired of doing the corporate world and I want to start my own startup, right?
Hmm.
Because I've seen
Right.
several of the people start doing that. So that
Exactly.
is, yeah,
Exactly.
so that is one thing that comes
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's super, super exciting. And I think that's what we want to promote, right? I think traditionally, Nepali, even until now, I think entrepreneurship is still a newish career choice for a lot of people, right? Now more and more, I think students and, your early career professionals are going to into startups that are. What's even more exciting is a lot of people that, like you said, right, that are domain experts that have worked for 10, 15 years, even doctors, lawyers, or any sort of field. Now they're sort of moving into entrepreneurship, which is so exciting. And I think as we sort of build this, I think that's where the synergy of TGND and Momo VC Pali is, right? Where together, I think we're sort of there's knowledge transfer within the community, right? In terms of how to leverage your network effects, how to sort of even learn how to be a founder and things like that. So to your part saying, I feel like it's really exciting for us, right? And we see that just for our audience, some of the people that are supporting us for the fund are actually have nothing to do with tech or startups or anything like that. But they do think they can also help as advisors, just as an example of a doctor's or say, one of our sector focus for Momo VC, we have healthcare, fintech, AI, cybersecurity, sustainability. So they think that they can, really help these companies, advise them, connect them to people and things like that. So they want to be a part of it. So it's almost like this. interesting evolution of our community, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Ismail, say, maybe let's talk a little bit. Let's share a little bit in terms of what we're doing. Earlier,
Yeah.
we've started the fund. We've actually done our first investment. On the earlier thing, we're, doing a roadshow for the fund, which is exciting. Maybe, Alikiti, let's share a little bit in terms of for people that one, they don't understand. But, when we think about Nepal or Nepali investments phenomena, traditionally they used to be infrastructure, hydro projects, and things like that, right? Startup is still relatively new. But I mean, say we're all going all in on startups. Maybe let's share हाम्रो experience in terms of why people should be investing in startups. And two, I think now we see a lot of Nepalis also diaspora and even in Nepal really doing angel investing, right? How does that alikiti differ in terms of pure angel investing versus a fund? Maybe let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So, as we talked about earlier, a lot of the emerging problems lately are solved by startups. So, that is one aspect, like problem solving, right? Also, from the investment perspective itself, both angel investment as well as VC investment, that is the only path into investing into innovation, right?
Right.
Because there's no alternate ways. So, what we have to do is so, first is access to innovation, uh, which are not available in public market. So that is
Mhm.
one, right? And also, uh, unlike other type of typical investment, let's say your 401k, real estate, and all, which are almost pegged to a market, right?
Right.
And it comes with that market volatility. And all of us know how it is going in the last
Right.
few weeks and how it is gonna go in the next
Right.
few years. Nobody knows,
Mhm.
right? And but this VC or angel investment is not directly tied to the public equity market. And we do have much more control over that. So that is one aspect of it, right? So the second part of the conversation is about angel investment and the VC investment.
Mhm.
Both of those provide access to the innovation, but they are different in terms of the structure, right? VC investment is much more structured than the angel investment. So what? The first
Right.
thing is if, especially in the early stage of the technology startups, uh, if it is not structured, if the firm or the investors are not structured, founders are hesitant to share their ideas or
Right.
intellectual properties because uh, their it is their idea, intellectual property that is of greatest value.
Right.
It is not a commodity, right?
Right.
So angel investors do not get those kind of deals
Right.
that
And unless
VCs get.
unless they yeah, unless they're like super angels when they've built that reputation and so on. So basically, it's an organization gets a little bit more credibility than an individual, right? In that sense,
Yep,
right?
yep, yep. So that is one.
Mm.
Uh, so another is the portfolio diversification, right? Because if I'm an angel investor, because I'm an angel investor as well in some of those, is if I'm investing in one company,
Right.
I'm betting everything on that company, right? But if you invest in a VC fund, the portfolio is diverse, right?
Mm.
The diversification is already built in. So let's say
Right.
if somebody uh, invests $100,000 on a fund, then we do not put all 100,000 of one person into one
Mhm.
fund, right? Because
Right.
if we do have the 10 portfolio, it is spread across. So
Right.
the diversification, because of the portfolio diversification, that risk is minimized. Uh, so the deal access, that is one part, and
Right.
uh, deal access, better due diligence, uh, portfolio diversification. Those are the main differences I
Right,
do see.
exactly, exactly. And I think too, we keep on saying, Momo VC is this early stage VC for venture capital fund for, underrepresented founders. Even if that sounds very vague, I think there's a reason behind it, right? Just also say, in terms of underrepresented means like so many things. It can mean so many things, right? Minorities, immigrants, women, in terms of a gender, in terms of race, in terms of even where they're located, and so on, right? So even as while Momo VC is not an impact fund, I think we get to one create impact by supporting entrepreneurs that might not get that first chance. On But also, I think while doing that, we get to really choose very diverse people, right? Not just different backgrounds, but different races, genders, all of that. So in a way, too, I love that how it sort of brings that diversity in all its forms, right? In terms of that mix. So I'm like saying, we definitely, want to support global Nepali founders, but also like we get to have that mix of, everybody that's underrepresented, and also plug in different ecosystem partners as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right.
Right, right. um while we talk a little bit about VC, and maybe one thing that we should also highlight to people, and that's something that some entrepreneurs maybe don't realize, right? um VC is not for everybody. NBC is not free money, right? Tisma, maybe can you share a little bit in terms of, there's some companies that are great, but they are not VC backable, or they shouldn't be, right? Uh, like, can you share just an example in terms of some types of companies that maybe they should look for other sources of funding, like apart from VC?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are many. One category that comes to my mind is the services category, right?
Mhm.
Because what happens is usually, if it is a service industry or consulting industry, VCs usually do not invest in those. The reason being, one is they do not have proper governance and controls, right? VCs cannot look at the services industry in a like in a minute details way, right?
Straightforward. Right, right,
Yes,
right.
yeah. So
Mm,
that is much harder, and also the scalability, right? Because
right.
VCs cannot help a whole lot in scaling the services
Mm,
industry. So those are the two primary reasons uh, VCs usually do not get into. Uh, I mean, that's my thought on it. Uh,
right, right.
yeah. What do you think?
Um, what I've seen is some, I guess, startups, but they're not really uh, tech startups, no, by and there's some doing something around entrepreneurship. I think one thing, especially in Nepal's context, and we'll get into that as
Mhm.
well, right? That the definition of a startup is a little vague, right? There should be, a little bit of categorization of or classification in terms of this is a services startup. This is a tech enabled or technical sort of startup. This is uh, this is a different, maybe agro related or something like that, right? I think by categorizing that, we are able to say, okay, how can we scale it? Like you said, can we, VCs always want multiples. So can we, is it a software that we can scale? Or what is the highest potential it can reach, things like that. And I think by categorizing like that, we are able to say, okay, maybe this is more, more for grants, or maybe, it should target revenue or some different kind of funding model, maybe a mix of impact versus, normal. Combination of even debt or equity, different sort of things. But I think one problem I do see is everything's lumped together, and sometimes it's, everybody thinks that they should target VC funding, and two, it's free money. It's never that, right? So yeah, so maybe a little bit of categorization in terms of where we are would help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's supposed to say, let's talk a little bit in terms of one of the reasons we actually connected, even, before we became partners on building this fund. I remember our first conversation we had, and, it was incredible.
Yes.
Just a connection through LinkedIn, but it was just incredible in terms of how we connected, how we aligned, and, here we are. Um, but one big reason has been, like, we're both obsessed with building a tech ecosystem in Nepal. Not creating from scratch, but really being a part of it, really fostering it. Maybe let's talk about, what you see the current scenario in Nepal in terms of that ecosystem. And through TGND and Momo VC, both of us have been investing a lot of time, whether in person or virtually, in terms of trying to help. But where do you think we are in Nepal, and how are we trying to make a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's a I mean, there's so many things there, right? Yeah, there's so many things there. I mean, so let's start it, right? There are so many good things happening in Nepal, so many good things.
Mhm.
But I do not think we are talking about that in an appropriate way, or we do not have a consistent narrative
Messaging.
that we do use to explain it, right? Because if you talk to different people, you do get different answers, but not consistent answers,
Mm.
right? Some of the things that I see missing in those conversations is we do not generally talk about some of the great things that we have done, especially like let's think about the talent, right? Because Nepal now produces uh, technical talents in thousands every year. It's great,
Yeah.
right? Um, and a lot of engineers, what we do not like, a lot of engineers from Nepal are working in multinational companies right from there.
Right.
A lot, right?
Right.
In addition, a lot of the software companies in Nepal are doing the product development work
Hmm.
there, not just providing these services,
Right.
outsourcing call center services, but more like engineering, product engineering. That's happening in
Right. Right.
Nepal, right? So those are some of the things in the IT sector. And if you simply think in terms of the revenue remittance itself, it is more than $1 billion with B
Mhm.
a year, right? In Nepal. So
Right.
that's a
Right.
significant amount. So those are some of the things. And also electricity and internet. It is not a problem anymore. We do have abundant there, right? Uh, Politically, it is stable. It is always a relatively relative
Mm.
term, right? But if
Right.
you
Right.
compare that with a lot of things that is happening across the globe, including in the United States, right? Political stability in Nepal is pretty good,
Mm.
right? So that's one. Uh, Diaspora are strong, right? You and I are just example. Let's look at the diaspora, and
Right.
they want to contribute. They want to do. They want to contribute with their knowledge. They want to contribute with their finances, right? With
Right.
their capital. So that is also happening. Uh, Look at the population itself,
Mm.
because we do have 30 million population.
Right.
What does that mean, right? Because back in the days, uh, population was a problem. Not anymore, right? Now, population means resources, right?
Exactly. And especially because the big chunk of that is, young
Y-
people, right?
Yes, right? Right. So now let's imagine a scenario. If we develop some of the products, we can start with like testing the prototype there,
Mm.
testing the markets there. Then guess what? We are geographically located between two of the most like emerging country, huge population,
Exactly.
right? So the opportunities are great there.
Of course, right? And one thing that I always find exciting about India and China is sometimes like it's cost so little to test things there, right? And some apps and some products, like if they work there, they work incredibly well, right? Like billions of people will use it. So I think even for Nepal, right, like you said, right, there's such an opportunity to not just always feel like we're, crushed between them, but also think about the market potential right next door, right? And
Yes.
in terms of what we're building, what we can ship right next door, I think there's such a huge potential.
Yeah, and it is even cheaper than India, right? I mean, it's 60 cents on a dollar.
Right.
Currently, the talent cost in Nepal versus India. So opportunities are great.
Exactly, exactly. So let's also talk about some things that, room for improvement, Manumna, in terms of what we see. We've at least last couple of years now, both of us have been really involved, right? And also we're very active, not just observers, but participants in the activities in Nepal, right? And also, Nepal र यो diaspora को connections हरूमा. So, what do you see in terms of some things that maybe could be better in terms of creating that tech ecosystem?
Yeah, sure, absolutely right. Um, then a lot of the people are trying to do good things,
Mm.
right? And they are doing good things.
Right.
But a lot many times it feels like they are doing it in silos,
Mm.
but not collaborating with each other.
Right.
Kunai, not like, I don't think that's intentional. It is just they don't think about it,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that is one of the things that I have noticed. So
Is
connecting
that
the
more
dots is,
cultural? Ki, what do you think? That sort of that unintentional, when it's some kind of a scarcity mentality, right? In terms of
yes.
really not, being hesitant to share ideas, hesitant to really, put everything on the table and, talk about things. Do you think it's a little bit cultural, Pane?
I think it's more scarcity
Mm.
mentality, right? Because, I mean, we are relatively new emerging
Right,
nation. I mean, like 30 years back, we did not
right,
have anything.
right,
So
right.
that could be one of the thing.
Mm.
That could be the reason, but I have not dissected that far enough, though.
Okay, okay, okay. But in terms of this mindset, I mean, we're glad that that mindset is shifting, and we see that, with every visit, every time we spend time in Nepal, you see that, changing a little bit, right, in terms of how people are thinking about collaboration and cooperation and so on. But in terms of, what could be done in terms of that ecosystem, in terms of that evolution. What do you think can be done? From I think players in that space, or uh, people or organizations like us,
Yeah, too. I think what we can do the best is helping them connect, right?
right?
Connecting the dots. So that is one. And also helping them or helping everybody create a narrative, right?
Okay,
That way, we do not, let's say, if we are invited into one forum, like entrepreneurship forum, we do not end up talking about Everest and Buddha. Yeah, of course, we are very proud of it, but there are so many other things that we can
fantastic.
talk about, right? So we can help build the narrative. So that is one area, and other is helping them, helping everybody structure a little bit, right?
Mm,
So that would like let's create the governance structure, not a bureaucratic way, but more like, hey, how should startups be managed? How should the funding structure should be managed, right? How do we do the valuations of these things?
right,
So
right.
those are relatively easy to do, and there are so many benefits of it, right? Because
Mm,
when it is structured that way, there is a transparency. If I'm a foreign investors, diaspora or
right,
not, I can look into those books easily. I can govern the processes and
exactly.
I feel comfortable, right?
Right,
So
right.
those are some of the things. What do you
Right,
think?
right. No, no, I agree. And, we've obviously had so many discussions, for months regarding all of this, good, bad, ugly, in terms of what's happening in Nepal, and the everything. Everything that you mentioned is part of the four pillars that we think in terms of what we're building, right? The fund for now is US based, but a lot of our time, our sort of uh, thought process, as well as what we're trying to build long term, is actually Nepal is a big part of the whole equation, right? And we've thought about the four pillars. So maybe, why don't we share a little bit in terms of, you is maybe you can tackle the Nepal side of things, and I can talk about, what we're doing at TGND and how it all connects.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, right. So uh, there are two things that's going in parallel. One is startup resource hub,
Right.
right? So the idea about startup resource hub is one central portal or location where all the startups can go and get the information. It is for free, right?
And we're
They
building it.
Yes, we are building it and we are giving it to startup for free. So they just go there, they register themselves, and they can get all the resources they want.
Right.
So that is coming in. And now we are also helping along the side, we are helping other like government and non-governmental agencies, working with them on building or already, I mean, let me put it this way, a little bit. Um, Whatever is already built by them, we are not going to duplicate it.
Hmm.
We are going to partner with them
Right.
to refine and retweak some of the venture studios, accelerator, so on and so forth. Right. That way, we can help them scale. Right? We do
Exactly.
not want to solve just the local problem. We want to solve the global problem, right?
Exactly.
So that is some of the work that we are doing.
No,
Uh,
dude, then that's super, super exciting, because when we talk about, what we see in terms of a gap in Nepal's tech ecosystem is exactly that, right? There's a lot of activity happening. If you're in Nepal, you know that there's events happening every week, startup events, which is really exciting. But what we really deeply feel is that it's not connected. Everybody's working in silos, and we can do better, right? I think it's, 2 plus 2 is 10. That's the math that we really believe in, and we really want to help it. And again, I think whether it's us trying to do this or anybody from the diaspora, one thing that I really want to also highlight is we're not trying to replace or duplicate uh, things that are happening in Nepal, right? I think we come from a place of good intention and love for Nepal, and what we want to do is the missing links we want to connect. What we see from outside, sometimes when you're deep down building some things, you are unable to see that outside perspective, maybe and a bird's eye view. We have the opportunity as the diaspora to see that, and we want to really make a difference. So in terms of this startup hub and things like that, again, the reason we're investing in that is because we do think it's going to help startups in Nepal really think about being global companies, thinking about fundraising, thinking about being able to connect to the diaspora. So that's something that is super, super important. Apart from that, through the Great Nepali Diaspora, we've been running incubators for global Nepali founders, companies based in Nepal and around the world. And then we've seen them do some amazing things, right? We've helped non-technical companies like Ne Nepal, which is a jewelry brand with two female co-founders, and companies like EcoWin, which is an AI startup. And we've seen them do amazing with some support. And the reason, Momo VC was born is also we want to also almost take it to the next level, right? We were doing everything else but writing a check, and now Momo VC is going to be that extension to the support we provide. So for us, I think, when both of us, when we think about what we're doing in Momo VC, TGND, it's all connected, right? It's sometimes it feels like uh, the Great Nepali Diaspora is a completely different entity, and Momo VC is completely a different entity, and they are, but it's going to be such a strong relationship. We see a very strong alignment, and I think, personally, if I were to just speak from TVND's perspective, I do see those kind of use cases opening up more and more, right? So, now it's for, we've created this use case for investment. Maybe there's going to be something like that for policy. Maybe there's going to be something like that for, some kind of a knowledge transfer, things like that. And that's where I think the excitement is, right? Where there's a genuine potential of, us coming together, the work that's gone into it for the last couple of years, but now I think we are able to sort of almost harness that power as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, if I may add, there's one additional thing that TGND doing, Expert Hub, right? That's amazing because that is how we can connect that directly to Mama VC, right?
Right,
That is one. Another is like even for Nepal, knowledge transfers and all those things. That's amazing. So
right.
some of the work in expert hub, diaspora mapping, all those.
Mm. No, it's been incredible, and I think, yeah, I'm so grateful to everybody that's been a part of it. We have my incredible podcast team on here, but also the volunteers, the mentors, the advice, everybody that's sort of wants this to succeed. So it's been a collective effort, from day one. So amazing things. But maybe let's tweak,
Yeah.
our conversation a little bit, I would say.
Okay.
Um, you live in Arkansas, right?
Yes.
And the reason I bring it up is, Arkansas is named, the home of Walmart, right? So, there's obviously a lot of incredible stories from there. Tara, when we think about entrepreneurship, innovation in the US, we only think of Silicon Valley, New York, and now like small pockets coming up. Tara, maybe let's talk about Arkansas. why, what you see there, what you've experienced there in terms of innovation, and maybe, why it also feels like that's somehow connected to, Kathmandu or, places in Nepal as well.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So, of course, right, it is Northwest Arkansas specifically, it is not as big in startups as Silicon Valley
Yeah.
or New York. Nobody is, right? But it is getting there and it does have so many activities. So you can think of it as uh, Austin, which was 10 to 15 years back. There are
Right.
so many activities going on. One of the biggest thing that I do see, biggest benefit that I do see here is entrepreneur support system here,
Mm,
right? There are not a whole lot like big talent pool, but entrepreneur support system is amazing.
mm,
There are so many events and activities happening here. It is amazing. And everybody is 1 to 2 call away. I can just pick up the phone and ask for somebody's time, and they will do that. So
exactly.
this is amazing, amazing, right? Also, one other thing that I do see is not just from the geographical point of view, right? The landscape and all. I do see a lot of commonalities between Northwest Arkansas and Nepal. Entrepreneur, especially the entrepreneur system here is really good. That is something that Nepal can learn, right?
Mm,
How to build this entrepreneur uh, entrepreneur support system kind of
right.
ecosystem there. At the same time, we can also explore the opportunities like the talent from Nepal side, right? So that is something that you can explore because Arkansas does not have big talent pool,
Exactly.
right? The density
Exactly.
is a very low density. So something to think about.
Exactly. And I think, we're hoping to explore that, right? So one thing that we also want to really work on is exactly that. How do you sort of work on the tech ecosystem in Nepal, but also bring mobility to the founders there, right? Vice versa, in terms of even for Nepali founders that are based in the US or Europe and so on, there is so much opportunity in Nepal in terms of, having a development team there and, having resources there. So I think when we say connecting the dots, it actually is not just one-sided, right? We do definitely want to do that. And one thing that I obviously haven't been to Arkansas, and I'm hoping to visit really soon. But one thing that sort of interests me is, technically speaking, it's corporations are also a big part of it, right? And sometimes I think we can replicate that model for places like Nepal, right? Where when we talk about entrepreneurship ecosystem, it's not just the government, not just the startups that are a part of it, but even the big companies can be a part of the innovation, right? When we think about innovation and entrepreneurship and agility, we sometimes separate big companies, but I think there's so much opportunity for them to sort of come together and be a part as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. So I mean, you brought a very interesting topic, right? So the let's say if an enterprise, a big enterprise, is doing some of the projects, how can they work with the startups and offload some of the projects to startup? How can they partner with academia
Mm,
to do those kind of research,
exactly.
right? The ecosystem gets much better that way. And also, one addition to that is ecosystem tend to get better when they are connected across geography as well, right? Because not all the ecosystem have because each ecosystem have their own uh, strong points as well as they do have weak points. Now, if when they do connect with different ecosystems, they do get the benefits, right? So you can take an example of like uh, Israeli ecosystem.
Hmm.
The innovation happens a lot there, right? Because
Right.
a lot of the products come out of it, but a lot of the funding happens through Silicon Valley,
Mm,
right?
exactly.
Right, and a lot of the market testing happens in the United States because Israel does not have a huge market
Right. Right.
because the population is not huge, right? So there
Exactly.
are so many things that we can be creative about.
Exactly, exactly. And for us, I think the tech ecosystem that Israelis have built is something that we also, benchmark against, right? In terms of, small population size and, but being able to really, I think it's not entirely about the size, the population size or things like that, but how well you are able to leverage it in a way, right? And I think for us with growing diaspora that's in great places that is has a lot of domain expertise, I think we're sort of this is the right timing in terms of all of that, so there's a good stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Amazing. um as a lagi say maybe the last question from me, as I'm sure there's a lot of founders that reach out to you personally, Bunny. I know you've invested in a lot of, personal level, my Bunny. You've done a lot of investing in companies, Nepali and otherwise. And, we obviously get a lot of inbounds from people all over the world in terms of, fundraising help and everything. You know, what is your advice if you were to give maybe one or two tips to people, what to do and what not to do in terms of as they look for funding? Maybe let's put it out there.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, right. Uh, One thing that comes to my mind is like get structure, right? Get
Mm,
discipline. That way, because that way VC and the investors would understand what you are building.
right.
Because lot many times uh, it might be in your head, but VCs or investors do not understand it.
Mm,
So that is one very important thing. Another is be able to articulate your competitive differences,
right.
right? With impact that you are putting to the like bringing to the community, right? Otherwise, uh, I mean, a lot of the VCs are tired of uh, is like investing in another photo sharing app, right?
Mm, mm,
All those things. So you do not want to do that. So those are the
exactly.
two things that is the must, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
What do you think?
yeah. I have a whole laundry list of
Yeah,
things. One disc. I mean, not a disclaimer. One thing is, even for us as we build a VC fund, it's like a startup, right? And
yeah,
we're fundraising, all of that. So we're sort of, deep down, we're like startup founders as well. So one thing that we want to really put it out there is one, we understand it in terms of the need, the desperation, the kind of work you have to do, and even in terms of what we're doing through Momo VC, we are always going to put founders first, right? So that's always there. In terms of the advice, similar to you, one is just be clear in terms of the ask, right? I think sometimes it's just so easy, and we see that a lot in terms of people want funds, but they don't even know how much, or they don't know, uh, you know, how much they actually need, or who to, like, you know what I mean? So there's like, they just know they want to get to the next level, whether it's building an MVP, whether it's, runway for a certain number of months, but they haven't even done a little bit of math in terms of why they're asking for 150,000 versus 500,000 or things like that. And another one, and I definitely want to put it out there as well. Not Don't just have a monetary ask, right? For all of us, whether it's you know especially for, I think, startups, you think you want money, and then money is going to solve everything, but sometimes money is apart from that, you also need few things. And I think that's where, Momo VC again comes in. You need guidance, you need maybe expertise, you need somebody to help you get to the next level, whether it's by opening up access to their network, by making connections, all of this. And I see a lot of people just have you know, asking for, 250,000, whatever amount, and that's it. And sometimes, you might not be a good fit for whoever sees your debt. It might not be a good fit because, it might not be the sector sector they invest in. It might be too early. So many different things. But if you haven't put a second ask, you will never get that chance again, right? So, especially for our community, like we said, because we don't, again, come with those networks, maybe have a secondary ask. Because sometimes, with the market volatility, so many things, people might not have the funds right now, or people, there might be so many reasons for not investing money in your company, but they might be like, oh, I could make 5 introductions, or I could do this. But if you never ask, you never get it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's very well put. That's very well put, right? I mean, and to your point, it is not the size of the check that we do bring to the table. It is our expert LPs, advisors, and our operational expertise, right? So ask us that in addition to
Exactly.
just asking for the check, and we can provide
Exactly.
much better, right?
Right, right. Exactly. I mean, even about Hanita designated investors a boy. So yes, ask us. And also even in terms of asking Hamro community is also that, right? Is of course you might ask somebody for money first, but also ask if they can, mentor you or advise you and so on. And sometimes you never know how things work out. So maybe they, in terms of again, the power of networking is, if you think of a long-term relationship instead of just a transaction, good things might happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ain't it? Um, I think this sort of we wanted to give people, one, we wanted to introduce our audience, our community members to you, Sajansi, and what we're trying to do from Momo VC, right? The name is fun, but also confusing. So we wanted to also bring clarity and also give people that, it excites us so much to talk about, building this. And we wanted to share that excitement with people. Only we've done our first investment. We're going to
Yeah.
announce it really soon, and we have some amazing news coming as well. So we wanted to do all of that. That I really wanted to one thank you again for being a part of this. I think at this point I couldn't have imagined building this with anybody else. I think it's been great
Wow.
to do this
Yeah,
together.
it's an honor. Yeah.
So theory is exciting. And, और कुछ saying for our audience, I think we've reached season 5. We've highlighted not just entrepreneurs, but, people from all different areas, singers, writers, um, producers, whatnot, right? In terms of climate, they can, like all kinds of domains. And we've seen one thing we're really proud, your podcast team को तर्फबाट चाहिँ we have, Sabikir, who's our podcast manager. He's been through with us throughout the 5 seasons, and we've seen incredible Nepalis, right? I think on a personal level, saying that's been really, really exciting. So for our audience, we wanted to also thank everybody for being a part of us the last 4 seasons, and we have some amazing guests coming for this one. So, watch this on YouTube. Tell us who you want to bring us as a guest. Like, comment, ask us questions. I think one thing that we really, really want from our community is that, right? We love that you watch our podcast or listen to it, but just engage more in terms of ask us some deep questions that really bother you. Tell us what we didn't cover. Tell us how we can do better. So all of that, Kolagi, say, really want to encourage our listeners to do that. So apart from that, saying just do the usual like, comment, and share. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, everyone.